I forgot to add myself. Good morning. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I hope you're having a great day so far. Um, it's AA Day, and welcome. Even if you're not a recovering alcoholic or whatever you're here for, um, feel free because it's for everyone and you can use it in everyday life, whether you're an alcoholic or not. Um, I just ask for no judgment and no harassment, and please be kind to each other in the chats. I'm also live on Facebook. Hello to my sponsor. She's already there. I love you. I miss you. Hopefully, I'll be able to come see you soon. But anyways, so yeah, just those rules for everybody because it is a meeting, but just because people are here does not mean that they are the alcoholic or that they are the recovering alcoholic. They may just be supporting my channel or learning ways to help a friend or family member, which has been done through this channel as well. So please, that is my purpose for the meetings, is to help others and to let them know that they can do it too, and that there is a lot of help and there are a lot of us. So they're never alone. But anyways, I'm Sandra. I'm a recovering alcoholic. And if you don't know what book we're in, what page we're on, or what story we're reading, check down under the descriptions, under in the descriptions for the video, that it will have the story or step or uh, tradition we are on and what page, so you can follow along. If you don't have a book, don't worry. I have the books and can read them to you, which is what I do anyways. So just feel free to chat and um, carry on and listen. So I'm going to read the steps and then get into step 11, right? Yes, step 11. So, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. 12 steps. 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. Of course, y'all can hear Copper over here chewing on his bone. Every time I go live, that's what he does. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continued to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So we are in the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book on step 11. Now, when I first started AA, I met a guy who was drinking a beer, and this is what he said was the hardest one. So let's see. sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and power to carry that out. Prayer and meditations are our principal means of conscious contact with God. We AAs are active folk, enjoying the satisfaction of dealing with the realities of life, usually for the first time in our lives, and strenuously trying to help the next alcoholic who comes along. So it isn't surprising that we often tend to we often tend to slight serious meditation and prayer as something not really necessary. To be sure, we feel it is something that might help us to meet an occasional emergency. But at first, many of us are apt to regard it as a somewhat mysterious skill of clergymen, from which we may hope to get a second-hand benefit. Or perhaps we don't believe in these things at all. To certain newcomers and to those one-time agnostics who still cling to the AA hope as their higher power claims for the power of prayer may, despite all the logic and experience and proof of it, still we unconvincingly are quite objectionable. Those of us who once felt this way can certainly understand and sympathize. We well remember how something deep inside us kept rebelling against the idea of borrowing from any god or bowing before any god. Many of us had strong logic too. Hey daughter, I miss you. Which proved there was no God whatever. What about all the accidents, sicknesses, cruelty, and injustice in the world? What about all those unhappy lives which were the direct result of unfortunate births and uncontrollable circumstances? Surely there could be no justice in the scheme of things, and therefore no God at all. Sometimes we took a slightly different tack. Sure, we said to ourselves, the hen probably did come before the egg. No doubt the universe had a first cause of some sort of the god of the atom, maybe hot and cold by turns, but certainly there wasn't any evidence of a god who knew or cared about human beings. We liked AA all right and were quick to say that it had done miracles, but we recoiled from meditation and prayer as obstinately as the scientist who refused to perform a certain experiment, lest it proved his pet theory wrong. Of course, we finally did experiment, and when unexpected results followed, we felt different. In fact, we knew different. And so we were sold on meditation and prayer. And that we have found and that we have found can happen to anybody who tries. It has been well said that almost the only scoffers at prayer are those who never tried it enough. Those of us who have come to make regular use of prayer would no more do without it than would refuse air, food, or sunshine. And for the same reason, when we refuse air, light, and food, the body suffers. And when we turn away from meditation and prayer, we likewise deprive our minds, our emotions, and our intuition of vitally needed support. As the body can fail its purpose for lack of nourishment, so can the soul. We all need the light of God's reality, the nourishment of His strength, and the atmosphere of His grace. To an amazing extent, the fact of AA life confirms this ageless truth. There is a direct linkage among self examination, meditation, and prayer. Taken separately, these practices can bring much relief and benefit. But when they are logically related and interwoven, the result is an unshakable foundation for life. Now and then we may be granted a glimpse of the ultimate reality, which is God's kingdom, and we will be confronted and assured that our own destiny in that realm will be secure for as long as we try. However, faltering, falteringly, falteringly, to find and do the will of our own Creator. As we have seen, self-searching is the means by which we bring new vision, actions, and grace to bear upon the dark and negative side of nature. It is a step in the development of that kind of humility that makes it possible for us to receive God's help. Yet it is only a step. We want we will want to go further. We will want the good that is in us all, even in the worst of us, to flower and to grow. Most certainly we shall need bracing air and an abundance of food. But first of all, we shall want sunlight. Nothing much can grow in the dark. Meditation is our step out into the sun. How then shall we meditate? The actual experience of meditation and prayer across the centuries is, of course, immense. The world's libraries and places of worship are a treasure trove of all seekers. It is to be hoped that every AA who has a religion connection which emphasizes meditation will return to the practice of that devotion as never before. But what about the rest of us? Less fortunate don't even know how to begin. Well, we might start like this. First, let's look at a really good prayer. We won't have far to seek. The great men and women of all religions have left us a wonderful supply. Here, let us consider one that is a classic. I need a drink. My soda. Its author was a man who, for several hundred years now, has been rated as a saint. We won't be biased or scared off by that fact, because although he was not an alcoholic, he did like us, go through the emotional ringer, and as he came out the other side of that painful experience, this prayer was his expression of what he could then see, feel, and wish to become. Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I may bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. Lord, grant me that I may seek rather to comfort than to be comforted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved. For it is by self forgetting that one finds, it is by forgiving that one is forgiven, it is by dying that one awakens to eternal life. Amen. As beginners in meditation, we might now reread this prayer several times very slowly, savoring every word and trying to take in the deep meaning in each phrase and idea. It will help if we can drop all resistance to what our friend says. For meditation, debate has no place. We rest quietly with the thoughts of someone who knows, so that we may experience and learn. As though lying upon a sunlit beach, let us relax and breathe deeply of the spiritual atmosphere with which the grace of this prayer surrounds us. Let us become willing to partake and be strengthened and lifted up by the sheer spiritual power, beauty, and love of which these magnificent words are the carriers. Let us look now upon the sea and ponder what what its mystery is, and let us lift our eyes to the far horizon, beyond which we shall seek all those wonders still unseen. Shucks, says somebody, this is nonsense. It isn't practical. When such thoughts break in, we might recall a little rueful fully how much store we used to set by imagination as it tried to create reality out of bottles. Yes, we revealed in that sort of thinking, didn't we? And thought sober nowadays, don't we often try to do much the same thing? Perhaps our trouble was not that we used our imagination. Perhaps the real trouble was our almost total inability to point imagination towards the right objectives. There's nothing the matter with constructive imagination. All sound achievement rests upon it. After all, no man can build a house until he first envisions a plan for it. Well, meditation is like that too. It helps to envision our spiritual objective before we try to move towards it. So let's get back to the sunlit beach, or to the plains, or to the mountains, if you prefer. When by such simple devices we have placed ourselves in a mood in which we can focus undisturbed and constructive imagination on constructive imagination, we might proceed like this. One more we read our prayer. once more we read our prayer and again try to see what its inner essence is. We'll think now about the man who first uttered this prayer. First of all, he wanted to become a channel. Then he asked for the grace of being loved, forgiveness, harmony, truth, faith, hope, light, and joy to every human being he could. Next came the expression of an aspiration and a hope for himself. We hoped, God willing, that he might be able to find some of these treasures too. This he would try to do by what he called self-forgetting. What did he mean by self-forgetting? And how did he propose to accomplish that? He thought it better to give comfort than to receive it, better to understand than to be understood. Now I forgot where it was. Okay, there I am. Than to be understood. Better to forgive than to be forgiven. This much could be a fragment of what is called meditation. Perhaps our very first attempt at a mood, a flyer into the realm of spirit, if you like. It ought to be followed by a good look at where we stand now, and a further look at what might happen in our eyes were we able to move closer to the idea we have been trying to glimpse. Meditation is something which can always be further developed. It has no boundaries either of width or height. Aided by such instruction and example as we can find, it is essentially an individual adventure. Hey, don't eat that. You did it to me again, Copper. You made me lose my spot. But its object is always the same, to improve our conscious contact with God, with His grace, wisdom, and love. And let's always remember the meditation is in reality intensely practical. One of its first fruits is emotional balance. With it, we can broaden and deepen the channel between ourselves and God as we understand Him. Sorry. Now, what a prayer! Prayer is the rising of the heart and mind to God, and is the and in this sense, it includes meditation. How may we go about it? And how does it fit in with meditation? Prayer, as commonly understood, is a petition to God. Having opened our channel as best we can, we try to ask for those right things of which we and others are in the greatest need. And we think that the whole range of our needs is well defined by that part of step 11, which says knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. A request for this fits in any part of our day. In the morning, we think of the hours to come. Perhaps we think of our day's work and the chances it may afford us to be useful and helpful. or of some special problem that it may bring. Possibly today we'll see a continuation of a serious and as yet unresolved problem left over from yesterday. Our immediate temptation will be to ask for specific solutions to specific problems and for the ability to help other people as we have already thought they should be helped. In that case, we are asking God to do it our way. Therefore, we ought to consider each request carefully to see what its real merit is. Even so, when making specific requests, it will be well to add to each one of them this qualification: if it be thy will. We ask simply that throughout the day God place in us the best understanding of his will that we can have for that day, and that we be forgiven or be given the grace by which we may carry it out. As the day goes on, we can pause where situations must be met and decisions made, and renew the simple request, thy will, not mine, be done. If at these points our emotional disturbance happens to be great, we will more surely keep our balance, provided we remember and repeat to ourselves a practical prayer or phrase that has appealed to us in a trendy appeal to us in our reading or meditation. Just say it over and over will often enable us to clear a channel choked up with anger, fear, frustration, or misunderstanding, and permit us to return to the surest help of all. Our search for God's will, not our own, in the moment of stress. At these critical moments, if we remind ourselves that it is better to confront than to be confronted, to understand than to be understood, to love than to be loved, we will be following the intent of step 11. Of course, it is reasonable and understandable that the question is often asked, why can't we take a specific and troubling dilemma straight to God, and in prayer secure for Him sure and definite answers to our requests? This can be done, but it has hazards. We have seen AAs ask with much earnestness and faith for God's explicit guidance on matters ranging all the way from the shattering domestic or financial crisis to correcting a minor personal fault like tardiness. Mike, can you get him a scoop of food, please? Quite often, however, the thoughts that seem to come from God are not answering at all. They prove to be well-intentioned, unconscious rationalizations. The AA or indeed any man who tries to run his life rigidly by this kind of prayer, by this self-serving demand of God for replies, is a particularly disconcerting individual. To any questioning or criticism of his actions, he instantly prefers his reliance upon prayer for guidance in all matters. all matters, great or small. He may have forgotten the possibility that his own wishful thinking and the human tendency to rationalize have distorted his so-called guidance. With the best of intentions, he tends to force his own will into all sorts of situations and problems, with the comfortable assurance that he is acting under God's specific direction. Under such an illusion, he can, of course, create great havoc without in the least intending it. We also fall into another similar temptation. We form ideas as to what we think God's will is for other people. We say to ourselves, this one ought to be cured of his fatal malady, or that one ought to be relieved of his emotional pain, and we pray for these specific things. Such prayers, of course, are fundamentally good acts, but often they are based upon a supposition that we know God's will for the person for whom we pray. This means that side by side we are earnest prayers. Then can be a certain there can be a certain amount of presumption and conceit in us. It is AA's experience that particularly in these cases we ought to pray that God will, whatever it is, be done for others as well as for ourselves. In AA, we have found that the actual good result of prayer are beyond question. There are matters of knowledge and experience. All those who have persisted have found strength not ordinarily their own. They have found wisdom beyond their usual capacity, and they have increasingly found a peace of mind which can stand firm in the face of difficult circumstances. We discover that we do receive guidance for our lives to just about the extent that we stop making demands upon God to give it to us on order and on our terms. Almost any experience Almost any experienced AA will tell how his affairs have taken remarkable and unexpected turns for the better as he tried to improve his conscious contact with God. He will also report that out of every season of grief or suffering when the hand of God seemed heavy or even unjust, new lessons for living were learned. New resources of courage were uncovered, and that finally, inescapably, the conviction came that God does move in a mysterious way. He wonders to perform. All this should be very encouraging news for those who recoil from prayer because they don't believe in it or because they feel themselves cut off from God's help and direction. All of us, without exception, pass through times when we can pray only for the greatest exertion of will. Occasionally, we go even further than this. We were we are seized with a rebellion so sickening that we simply won't pray. When these things happen, we should not think too ill, of course. We should simply resume prayer as soon as we can, doing what we know to be good for us. Perhaps one of the greatest rewards of meditation and prayer is the sense of belonging that comes to us. We no longer live in a complete hostile world. We are no longer lost and frightened and purposeless. The moment we catch even a glimpse of God's will, the moment we begin to see truth, justice, and love as the real and eternal things in life, we are no longer deeply disturbed by all the seeming evidence to the contrary that surrounds us in purely human affairs. We know that God lovingly watches over us. We know that when we turn to him, he will or turn to him, all will be well with us here and hereafter. Every time I get to this step, when he says to um, say the prayer, Lord, make me a channel of thy peace, that where there is hatred, I may bring love, that where there is wrong, I may bring the spirit of forgiveness, that where there is discord, I may bring harmony, that where there is error, I may bring truth, that where there is doubt, I bring faith, that where there is despair, I may bring hope, that where there are shadows, I may bring light, that where there is sadness, I may bring joy. That that I think maybe like the second or third time we read the book, because I've been sober for 9 years, so I've gone to plenty of AA meetings and read through these books more than 5 times. Um, but that sums it up, because when we're in our drinking, we are covered in our fear. We are having those fake emotions. We are pissed off. We are, uh, you know, all of it. And it does happen that way. And then once you get into your steps and stuff and you realize I can live a different life and I don't have to be that person and I am going to be different, then you can become the real you and actually feel the right feelings and the true feelings. And the first person that you have to be truthful with is yourself. Always be truthful with yourself first. Because if you're going to lie to yourself like we did before we came to Alcoholics Anonymous, we did not want to admit we were powerless over the alcohol, right? And now we can say without thinking back, we were really powerless over it in more than one aspect of life. While we were drinking, we were powerless over it. And I thought becoming the full blown alcoholic my whole life. And then I hit my 30s, and let me tell you, when I hit my 30s, there it went. And but I'm a mom, so I didn't really do a whole lot of drinking when my kids were little. I did when I drank some when I was a teenager. I admit it. I had a thing for alcohol, yes, but I wasn't the full blown alcoholic that I became. And but that was because I always knew that I could end up being that alcoholic. And then I hit my 30s and I went downhill. And I went downhill fast. So, and yes, I got sober before my 9 years. I had actually been sober for a year before, and I went back out. So I can vouch for the uh, just because you've made it a year doesn't mean it's changed. Because when I went back out a year later, I went right back to where I came from. And it took me another year, year and a half to come back out of it. And then I did that by myself. I finally had enough. I moved away from everybody. My son and my husband, we moved to a different part of the state, and we were gone for 6 months. I got sober in that 6 months. My sobriety date is November 15th, 2014. And I'm so glad that my friend, that I felt comfortable telling him that I was a recovering alcoholic, that I was an alcoholic. And he says, well, there's an AA meeting out where we grew up. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'll meet you there. It's where I got baptized. It's in the hall from the church. So I started going to AA, and when I first started AA, I'd show up, I'd feel uncomfortable, and I'd leave. And so I think it was like the second time that happened. Um, I went down into downtown, and not Portland, but went downtown, and there was a guy just left the gas station, and he comes walking over with the brown paper sack. Y'all know what you got in that brown paper sack. Something alcohol, especially if you're drinking it in public, right? It's not suspicious at all. But and I had my big book. I hadn't gotten a little book yet, and so I got the big book from my sponsor, and um, she said I needed to read it. I didn't read it at first. I was like, I'm not reading that, but I've read it, you know. But I was like, yeah, I'm stuck on step 4, because the first 3 were pretty easy for me. And I was like, I'm stuck on step 4. It's so hard because you asked me if I was an alcoholic. I, of course, said yes. I'm not going to lie. I am. And so he goes, oh, step 11 is a hard one. And the reason he said something to me about it is because he saw the big book and he had just went back out. I don't know what happened to him after that. But no matter where I'm at, I have learned so much from AA that I don't hide that I'm a recovering alcoholic from anyone. I've told my bosses, I've told my friends. I have a friend that I met at work who joins me on my YouTube side for my AA meetings. She might be watching replays because she's always working, but I don't shy away from the fact that I am a recovering alcoholic. And the reason is because they know when you can say that you go to AA or you have gone to AA, that maybe, just maybe, you can help them. And with the wisdom I have from AA is that I can pass it on. I can pass it on to other people and help them as well. And that's the motto of AA, is passing it along. Because it is a gift. It's a very huge gift. It's the biggest gift you can be given for an alcoholic. And I am so glad that I started AA. I'm so glad that I got a sponsor. I'm so glad that I have the platforms I have to be able to do these meetings to help the other people to find their sobriety or help them in the day of their life and give them the tools that they may need to move forward and use it every day. And it's a great gift and it's free. So that's why I decided I'm going to share it here, is because it's free for me to do so. And I do more on my YouTube channel. I do adventure videos on my YouTube channel. But the main thing is my AA has to come first before any adventures. So that's why I continue to do my AA meetings, is because it has to come first for me. And it's the only way, and working my steps every single day, it is the only way that I stay sober. It's just knowing that I have the tools and knowing that I can help others with a free gift. And it's a blessing because not all of us find it. The lucky ones do. And I just pray for the ones that don't know that somebody loves them. Somebody is waiting for them to turn around and do different. And they're waiting for you to come back. Because 9 times out of 10, you are the reason you don't have them, is because you left. You left and you don't realize you left. And now you can get back. Just go back. Reach out. Ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. Nothing at all wrong with asking for help. Ever. And I'm just so happy that I am still sober. I'm going strong. Yeah, I have my bad days. I have my wonderful days. I have my wanting to cry all day days. I do. But they are real. It's not fueled by alcohol. And that's the best gift I could get, you know, and bettering myself. By the way, what time is it? It's almost noon. I've been up since 5 and I have not smoked a single cigarette. No cigarettes in my house. I have none. I can't keep smoking. I'm already got COPD and emphysema or whatever it is, and it's hard for me to breathe. Just come up the steps, and I need to stop. And that I need to do for myself as well. And that is going to become part of my AA, is no cigarettes. And I'm going to throw in those prayers for his will and not my own, and pray that he will lead me the way that he wants me to go. And the only reason why I say the me part is because I cannot continue to smoke. But anyways, I'm going to say the Serenity Prayer for Facebook, and then I will share the uh, daily reflection on my wall, and I will read it over here to you guys on YouTube. So I love you, Facebook. Be safe. I love you guys, and have a wonderful day. And thank you for being here. And just know that I love you guys so very much, and thank you for being part of this journey with me. Okay, let me close that out. Alrighty. February 27th. Where does AA, oh, it says a unique stability. Where does AA get its direction? These practical folks then read tradition too and learn that the sole authority in AA is a loving God as he may express himself in the group conscious. The elder statesman is the one who sees the wisdom of the group decision, who holds no resentment over his reduced status, whose judgment fortified by considerable experience. Don't eat it! I no. Is sound and who is willing to sit quietly on the sidelines, patiently awaiting developments. Step 12 Steps, 12 Traditions, page 132 and 135. Into the fabric of recovery from alcoholism and woven the 12 steps and the 12 traditions as my recovery progressed. In progress, I realized that the new mantle was tailor made for me. The elders of the group gently offered suggestions when change seemed impossible. Everyone's shaped experiences became the substance for treasured friendships. I know that the fellowship is ready and equipped to aid each suffering alcoholic at all crossroads in life. In a world beset by many problems, I find the assurance in a unique stability. I cherish the gift of sobriety. I offer God my gratitude for the strength I receive in a fellowship that truly exists for the good of all members. And that is the daily reflection. And with that, I love you guys. Have a wonderful day. Be safe out there and be kind. And just remember, you're not alone. Um, you can do it. We're strong and we can do anything. Love you guys.